Then let's begin.
Pala.
Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
So guys, welcome everyone to Future Exchange Forum, a unique place where the paths of the esteemed and the ambitious intersect. Our vision is to create a dedicated platform that transcends boundaries and fosters collaboration. By bringing together luminaries from diverse fields, we aim to catalyze the exchange of knowledge, experiences, and ideas. Our mission is to bridge the gaps, connect the dots, and build a vibrant community where every interaction is a stepping stone towards personal and professional growth. Today, we are honored to introduce Mr. Debashish Gupta as our keynote speaker. With over 30 years at the helm of innovation in building materials, safety, media, and healthcare sectors, Debashish has shaped industry standards as the Vice President of 3M India Limited. His profound knowledge in Six Sigma, PNL, and strategic development is complemented by his educational background from the prestigious institutes like IIM Ahmedabad and XLRI. Known for his dedication to mentorship and social advancement, Debashish's global experience and eloquence in public speaking make him a beacon of leadership. Today, he brings focus to the increasingly crucial topic of work-life balance, offering insights on achieving both personal and professional fulfillment. Welcome, sir, and looking forward to this session from you. And thank you so much for accepting our invite and taking this up for us.
Sure. So I'm audible, right? My tone is correct, yeah. So thank you very much. What I'm going to do is very quickly, I'll take about half an hour, 40 minutes to talk through the subject, and then, so that we can have a good discussion after that. I had prepared a couple of slides in introduction to me, but not in the sense of what, Preeti spoke. So I'm just going to start from there. Let me just understand the controls. So this is a share screen. So I think when I was discussing the subject with, how do I get this out from here? Can you see my screen with some people on the side?
Yeah, but we can see you. We can see your screen.
Okay, and you don't see any other people. I see some, okay, I see some people on the right, so I'm a little confused. Anyway, and I'm just trying to see how I can. Oh yeah, that's fine. So I can now. So when I was discussing the subject, what came up is two different things. One is, for the last, I think about 2 years, I've been writing a little on LinkedIn. I've also been doing some videos. Initially, I wrote, and then I thought that, they're not very long write-ups. And my style of writing usually has been with a sketch, which I draw it myself, because I believe people, when they see images, it stays in their mind a lot. But then while talking to much younger people, I realized that videos are more effective, 6-7 minutes. People can grasp what they are talking. And what I do is I kind of make videos about everyday things, what I discuss with my colleagues, what I discuss with my peer group. So, two of those videos is the kind of subject that we have picked up today. One is on this thing called adversity coefficient, and then how adversity is affecting our work-life balance. And so most of these things are, my own internal feelings. So there's no right or wrong. You can debate it. We can talk about it. You can take something, and what you don't like, you can throw out. But so that's the kind of introduction to what I'm going to talk about. But just a little introduction about myself. I'll keep this very short. 31 years, largely in three industries. About first 10 years, 1989 to 98, in building materials, and three companies, Pidilite, STP, and Ballarpur Industries. And then about 6 years in paper and packaging, which was in Ballarpur. And then 2003, I joined 3M. So I've been with 3M now for almost 20 years, 2023 this year. I think June, July is when I will be completing 20 years. I joined as a general manager for a business in India Then I moved to Dubai and stayed there for about 5 years. Then I moved to Africa and then I came back now. So this is just a little of where I was. Middle East, Africa. I was based in Dubai. I was looking after all those countries then. Sub-Saharan Africa, I was based in Nairobi in Kenya for 5 years. And India largely two stints, 1989 to 2008. And then after I came back in 2018. So it's been a kind of a geographical and cultural experience for me, and also a mix of multinational, large, Indian-owned company, Indian-owned company, which was at that time in '89 small Pidilite, which now has become huge. So that's the kind of experience. Along the way, I picked up some passions. So there's just a little bit of what I like. I like collecting art. None of this is expensive, but it's all collected from all over the world. These are the walls of my house. I love to read. This is one of my bookshelves. And somewhere down the line, I realized that, cooking is a great stress buster. So I started cooking. And then now it's kind of become a little bit of passion for me. So I love to cook. So this is a little about me. Let's get into what we are going to talk about. So if you see what's happening in the world for last 5, 6 years, why adversity all of a sudden? After COVID happened, everybody thought that the worst that could happen to us is over. And now things are just going to be very nice going forward. But within a few years, the Russian war started. And when this started, everybody thought they will just finish them off in 3, 4 weeks and we'll go back to normal. They're still fighting. And, then you had the Twitter war, which erupted on business. And then after that, we had the Middle East crisis, which happened, and then the Gulf of Aden, where they are not letting ships to come in. There's piracy, and in the middle of all this, there's climate change. So one thing, I think it's kind of the world has changed. It's no longer going to be linear. It's no longer going to be like we all experienced it earlier. It's going to be like this. We will move from one crisis to other crisis to the third crisis, and all these crises, they are making the world very uncertain, and that's what we are calling as adversity, right? The world is becoming very adversarial. So if there is adversity, how do you manage adversity? That's the question. So I'm going to try and make an attempt to give you a toolkit which you can use to try and see whether this is a good idea to manage. This is a good toolkit to manage adversity. And then we'll talk about it when we finish. But before we come to adversity, I'll just take you quickly through how intelligence has evolved in the world, right? Most of these things you guys know. I'm just building it up so that, it becomes relevant to the discussion. So the evolution of intelligence started with what we call as IQ, right? Which is what we studied in our schools till our college, mathematics, science, English. And these are all the cognitive skills, which is reasoning, logic, problem solving. How do you make sentences? How do you communicate with people? And largely, I think what it did is it built your comprehension so that tomorrow when you come out in the world, you knew how to calculate things, you knew how to communicate with people. So IQ largely is responsible for building our comprehensive skills. And after that, I think during the 1990s, because I remember when I went to XLRI Jamshedpur for a program, this was 1991. And the professor there that time spoke about Daniel Goleman writing Emotional Intelligence. And I bought it at the Calcutta airport in 1991. Maybe he came up with this theory 5 years before, which is on emotional intelligence, right? EQ. So, in 1990, he kind of, he said that if only IQ was important, then every CEO of this world would have been somebody who's good in maths and science and English. But now we know that there are hundreds of people who are not good. And still they are very successful. They're CEOs, they're leading companies, they're building companies. So what is it they have? And then he discovered that they have something called EQ, which he called EQ, emotional coefficient, which is basically how you control yourself and how you interact with people, right? How you build empathy, how you manage yourself and you manage people. And largely these, the things on the left, I've just put my own words to describe. I think that this talks about your character. IQ is about your comprehension, EQ is about your character. Sometime in the 2000s, the new thing which came up was the social coefficient, SQ, which now talked about what's your social network? How many people know you? How do you work with friends? How do you work with colleagues? How do you work with a larger ecosystem? And that, I thought, it gave rise to what we call as your charisma, right? What's your charisma at work? What's your charisma in the in your family life or among your friends? So comprehension, character, and charisma, all these things put together started defining what all of us were. Till I think after COVID, something new came up, and this is what people are now calling as adaptability coefficient, or I'm calling it as adversity coefficient, handling change. And this is to do more with your mental fortitude. So if the world is going to remain like this, and there's going to be constant change in technology, constant change in the geographical configurations, among friendships, friendship meaning I'm saying among the nations, and there's going to be complete turmoil all the time. There's going to be a lot of adversity. It's going to require a lot of mental fortitude to get through. And how do you handle that? So what I did is I said, how do you improve your EQ? So I'm going with this assumption that if we have to get successful, we have to manage adversity. So how do we manage adversity, or how do we improve our coefficient, right? So I worked on a simple model. This model has got about 16 parts to it, and it starts with the first part, which is accepting that there is an adversity. Now, when I put this up, just think about it. There will be many people who don't even accept that there is an adversity. They will say, no, this is okay. This will get sorted out. Some people will be there who will say that, no, this is the way it is. I don't think there's an adversity. So the first thing is about accepting it's an adversity. And on the flip side, the other thing is that, please don't look at everything and say it's an adversity, because then it'll be like you're somebody who's crying wolf, right? So if there is an adversity, it starts first with the fact that we accept that this is going to be an adversity. There's no quick getting away from this. It's going to take some bit of perseverance. It's going to take some bit of, working through us. And then you look at the second thing, which is now you decide after accepting that, yes, I'm going to fight back. And when you decide you're going to fight back, then you start working on alternatives. You look at the various alternatives that is available for you to get through this condition or through this adversity. The first three, I think, are kind of things which will happen very quickly. The minute you accept it, the fight back comes immediately with that. And your mind starts thinking on the various alternatives. Once you're at that stage, you're then thinking about speed and agility, that how fast can I work through this solution? What should I be doing, right? And that's the time when your mind goes through various business models. You're kind of looking at, it's not a linear thinking anymore. We're not doing this, but can we do it? We've not done this earlier, but can we do it now? This is not the way we have been behaving, but can we do it right now? So once you accept fight back, you start working on alternatives. You're looking at various models. And that is a time when you bring in resources. And resources in today's world is no longer you and your team. It's you with the world that's available to you, right? Resources which are available on the net, resources which are available on LinkedIn, resources which are available among your peer groups, among your mentors, seniors, all that is resources. So to fight the adversity, how do I bring in the resources that is required? And then how do I creatively execute? I mean, it's no longer about just execution, it's about creatively executing. And in today's world, I think the most important thing is I need to keep adjusting. I know that there's no, by the time I get through this whole thing, things would have changed a little more. So I need to adjust. So I think this model of how do I improve my adversity coefficient today, if I'm an individual, I'm in a leadership position or wherever, and adversities keep hitting me, I'm saying this could be a model that do I accept it? Once I accept it, what's my fight back mechanism? What are the alternatives? How fast can I, work on the solution? What are the various models available? What resources can I bring in to solve this issue? How do I execute it now? How do I break it up into the smaller steps? And then how do I keep making adjustments? And largely in this model, if you see, I've broken up every quadrant. The first quadrant is more about your mental makeup. I'm sorry about the N being missing. So that's more about your mental makeup, your mind to accept and fight back. Right? The alternative speed agility is all about how you can quickly rework and reskill your resources. And then the fourth one is about execution. So the faster you can go through these 4 stages of making up your mind, reskilling, reworking, bringing all the resources together, and executing and adjusting, I'm saying that your AQ is going to get better. I've tried this and I've seen that it works in some places. But there is this what encompasses all this is these 4 things which I think are very, very needed, very, very important, which is your physical well-being, your mental strength, and how do you balance that with your social standing and your spiritual makeup. And of course, by spiritual, I'm not talking about religion, but it's more of your spiritual makeup. So if you want to manage AQ well, and you don't have a great mental strength, physical being, and your spiritual makeup is weak, and your social network is poor, I think it's going to get increasingly difficult because adversities are going to keep hitting us one by one, one by one, one by one. I'll just check how I'm doing on time. Okay, that's fine. So with this background, we said that if adversities are going to keep hitting us, we look at a model of how to fight it. How is it affecting my work-life balance? So that was the next question. How is it affecting my work-life balance? Or, what now people are saying, it's no longer balance, it's integration. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. But to explain work-life balance, everybody has his own theory, right? I'll tell you what was my theory. So in 1991, I think I went to this institute in Colorado. It's called Center for Creative Leadership in Colorado Springs. And, they put you for about 4 or 5 days in an incubator, and then they'll do all the usual stuff like the Johari windows, and there'll be some hundreds of tests done on you, and then they'll give you a report saying how good you are, what are your learning needs, what do you need to develop. But I realized that 30 years back, what they told me I need to develop, I haven't been able to develop it. So it's a very difficult, kind of process of life. So I went to this institute, and when they welcomed us, they gave us a kit and they gave us a pen at that time, and everybody was quite surprised because the pen had this logo on it. So where the pen is put on your button in your this thing, there was this logo. And we started asking them, within the next half an hour, then what really is this? They said, this is our logo. And we asked them, what kind of a logo is this? And they said, this is a button. So any of you who are, who are into sewing will know that a button has 4 holes. And to balance this button, you need to put the thread equally among all the holes. And also these holes need to be of equal size. They cannot be big or small. Otherwise, the button hangs. So the bigger circle, the button is your life. And these 4 holes are the 4 holes of the button. And this analogy stayed with me. And they said the first hole is our career, the second hole is family, the third hole is self, and the fourth hole is society. So what they said is that this analogy of work-life balance is how big is your career hole, how big is your family hole, how big is your self hole, and how big is the society. And how do you balance these things out, right? Just, because I've been dwelling with this for long, let me explain a little. Career, we all know, right? Family, we all know. Self is about what do you do with yourself? You like to paint. Are you doing it now? You were a great sportsman. You loved playing tennis, badminton. Are you doing it now? Somebody loves to sing. Somebody loves to, cycle. So the self whole is all about that. And the society whole is about what are you giving back to society? We are getting X, what are we giving back to society? So this buttonhole analogy somehow stayed with me whenever we talked about work-life balance. And this became my mantra. I tried to always think that how. So what they did at that time is they told all of us, draw your own buttons. And there were people from so many countries, everybody drew theirs. Typically, if you really look at Indians, and at least mine was like this. Our career hole is really big. We go there at 9, we come back at 9, and it takes away 12 hours or more of our life. The family hole, because still we are Indians, is still comparable in size. And then self is nothing much. It's a very, very small thing, a little bit of what we do with ourselves. And society is a speck, actually. I mean, many of us, we don't know what to give back, how to give back. And that speck is still there just because somebody pays a little for some maid's son or daughter or some notebooks, and we feel, we have done something in society. So I kind of, and then they said, if this is your work-life balance, then you got to work on it. So for last 25, 30 years, I've been trying to balance this out. And so part of one thing about society is what I'm doing on LinkedIn. There's no business, there's no company, there's no consultancy, at least not now. And even in future, I'm not very sure whether I'm doing it for money. It's more to give back to society, people who are now younger and they can learn something from what we have gone through. So that's my way of looking at society, apart from doing something else. Now, if you look at this buttonhole analogy and then look at work-life balance, you will find that how do we balance this thing out? And then today, has it dramatically changed? So I'm saying that it's no longer balance, it's work-life integration. And these 3-4 holes have all got amalgamated into one, monolithic structure or hole. So if you see, I come to work, but at work in those 12 hours, it's not only my career, it's also what I'm doing with myself, and it's also what I'm doing with society there where I'm working. And, recently there was this huge controversy about somebody, I mean, I'm not taking the name, but Mr. Murthy made this comment about Indians have to put 10, 12 hours at work. And there was a huge outcry about the fact that no, nobody can work. But I'm saying that if career, self, and society merge, then 10, 12 hours is nothing, right? He's not talking about sitting at a desk and working. I think what he's talking about is this, that when somebody comes to work, he is expecting you as his leader or as somebody in that company to merge all these three things. And that intersection between career and self is where you become a mentor or you get reverse mentored. When I came back to India, I had so many people who are very, very young and working with me in marketing, sales, and they became fantastic reverse mentors. So I was teaching them something, they were teaching me something. So the career and self then get completely merged there. And in the middle where you see experience, it's not that 20 years, 30 years experience. It's today's young generation. And I'm saying with the young, even a little older than them generation, who are saying that I'm going to the job for the experience of it, not that 20, 30 years of experience. So I know some of my friends, one of my friends' son was going to Mexico. So I asked him, what are you going to do in Mexico? He said, I'm going to study bee culture there, how bees are reared there. Somebody else is going to teach somebody in, Vietnam. I'm seeing young people in India who are giving up jobs, who are, riding a bike from Kanyakumari to, Kashmir. When we grew up, we could never even think like that, right? Because we were not in that we've come to experience something. So now these people have come to experience. If you can't bring career, self, and society together, then they are saying that, boss, I'm not going to be here for 9 hours working on the laptop like a slave or working in a machine like a slave. So the question is that we as people who are, kind of leading teams, how do you then become a mentor? What are the various roles of a mentor? I'm not going to talk about that today. The interface between when you come to work and what work does with society. So in 3M, we have a program where you can volunteer to work in any country. And there's hundreds of people apply. There's an interviewing process. And one of my colleagues now is going to Croatia, if I'm not wrong, for about 2 weeks to work. He's going to work in Croatia in the society there. Now, what's that doing for him? It's building his self-concept. He's going to come back much more confident. He's going to come back much more informed, knowing about a culture, knowing about something completely different. So I'm saying, look at that interface there, which at work the setup or the organization is trying to build. And between your career and society, of course, there is this whole social coefficient which you are building. And that I think is what you people are doing now. People like Priyanka Jain and all, you're inviting people, people are coming in. So imagine there is a company where there are so many people and you're bringing society. And society means not just friends and family. Society also means people who are on LinkedIn, people who are, business leaders or people who are professors. So all of them come in and you're building a social coefficient of people. So I think work life today no longer is the button theory. It's more of these integrated, way of looking at it. Companies which are very successful have integrated this beautifully well. Look at the other thing there, society and family. So when you think about this gentleman who talked about working for 10, 11 hours, look at how the family is part of society, right? There is a social service, there is this, and most of us may not have crores of rupees, but for us, our currency is time. It's not money. Can I give my time to a cause? Can I give my time to something? So I think, when somebody asked me that, can you talk about this fact that you've been talking about AQ and adversity and how do we manage adversity? And the fact that if the world is going to be like this, how does it affect our work-life balance? I thought I'll pick up this model, which I followed for 30 years. And then today I see it emerging completely different into something which is a work-life integration and no longer a balance. So I don't know how much time we have, but that was part of my, brief to all of you. And then, we can discuss and talk about this. If you find it interesting, you have any suggestions, questions, I can take it from there.
I think we are open for question answer session now. Anybody who has any questions or any kind of a suggestion, please raise your hands and could start talking. Kasha? Yeah, you could ask the question.
Priyanka, Kasha, just give me a minute. I'm not very good at Zoom. I'm trying to get back so that I can see all of you, but it's becoming very difficult. So if I return to the meeting, but I don't see all of you.
You will have to stop the screen share. Then you'll be able to see all of us. Yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I see that now. Sorry.
Yeah.
Please go on, Kasha. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yeah. So in terms of self, how do you see is people giving more preference to the self and the spiritual quotient of who they are? Or what is your experience on how to find the self?
So, I think in life, you have all these various phases, right? And, we had a phase where everything was about productivity, and there was a phase when there's this huge HR outcry. There was a phase which was all about TQM and quality and all that. I think after COVID, this whole self-awareness, I mean, you're hearing these words very often, and people are asking these words in a very serious way, what's my purpose? People are trying to find purpose. People are trying to be more aligned to themselves, what they like, their spiritual well-being. And I think this phase is here to stay for some time now. And you're right. I mean, we are finding people are more interested in, how they're not approaching the job more from a just a grade change or a increment or a designation and money. Of course, all that is there. I'm not saying that's gone away, but these other things have also become equally
important. So like for emerging small medium enterprise from 3M what is that takeaway, or what is the this can help the SMEs grow? What would it be?
So my takeaway on this is that, look, you have people at all stratas of life, right? Somebody who's passing out of IIM, maybe joining a large company. Somebody who's passing out of a smaller company, a smaller institute, maybe joining an SME, right? But their
Hmm.
aspirations largely don't change. Somebody may have an aspiration because of his or her social condition, which is around XYZ, and somebody else may be at ABC. So even in SMEs, if you have people who are joining you in sales or in the production staff, or people who are in the HR or various admin functions, they also have similar aspirations like what we described. It's not that they are just behind money and they're just going to work. So you'll have to bring in work-life integration there also. You'll have to think of how am I going to play this role of, managing their career, self, and societal part together there. And you'll have to devise ways and means of doing it. And I feel that when this started, initially it was very, kind of uh, uh, like a tick the box, take them out for lunch, organize these fun events, everybody is here. But I think people are now looking beyond that. And I keep hearing people saying that they're not going for these anymore. So people are looking for much more deep-rooted interactions, deep-rooted interfaces. So you'll have to build all that if you want to retain the team, if you want the team to be with you. Otherwise, every time you make a sales pitch, there's a new guy you're talking to, and there's no continuity.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Murthy has a question. Murthy, sir? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Murthy.
Yeah. Hello, Debashish. You were saying that your colleagues travel across countries, work there for a couple of weeks, and they come back. What kind of insights they bring back, and how do they apply in their work locations, and how effectively it is helping them?
So, don't get me wrong. I mean, just because we are a multinational, people go out of the country. But you can look at a similar situation within the country. I mean, let's say you're based in Chennai and you are doing a CSR program where people go to Delhi, people go to other places, right? So the inferences that they bring back are very similar. So I know few people who have been to these programs. So the first thing that I've noticed when people come back from working at cross-cultural levels is they realize that, if you want to make a difference in somebody's work life, you need to understand their belief system and their belief structure. So when when you're from South and you come to North, or from India, you go to Middle East, or like this gentleman who's going to Croatia, you realize that when we are all working together, we have to first know what is our belief structure, what is our belief system. And then as a manager or as a leader or as a co-worker or as a team member, I try and see how I can either fit into that belief system or how I can work with that belief system. So I think this cultural integration of understanding people, understanding their belief systems, it's, in the olden days, it was about how do the Japanese shake hands and how do they drink tea. I think all that is with YouTube, all that got over, right? Because YouTube just made us accessible to those things very freely. I think people are now wanting things at a much more deeper level. So one, definitely I see this kind of cultural understanding and cultural upbringing. Second is that, when people who come back from these kind of cross programs, whether they are in India or abroad, I think they come back with a lot of increased empathy levels, a lot of self-awareness about, where am I versus where is the world. It could be either I'm above or it could be I'm below. In either ways, there is a learning. So in these kind of interactions, the company is not expecting any, any technical or any production related learning. It's more of these kind of things. The third thing I've seen is that in these 15 days, they will put you in various groups and they'll give you various tasks. So let's say you and I are part of 4-6 member group, and our task is to teach a bunch of students in a school, there. So I've seen people come back with very good, working of understanding others. How do you work? And there are all these various different people from different countries, right? I got to be patient, but the time cannot run out just because I am patient. How do I make myself understood and heard? How do I build trust quickly in teams? And how do I then take it forward from there? So I think these are the kind of soft skills we have seen, which is helping people a lot in these.
Do you feel the empathy part increases by these trips, what they go and come back?
I think definitely empathy increases, and I think it kind of brings a little different dimension to the feeling of empathy among people. I mean, there are two types of, usually the CSR programs, nobody is going to New York City, right? You're going to places where there is some need. So it could be Croatia, it could be Kenya, it could be Nigeria. So you come back seeing some things where you feel that, I'm much more privileged. And you come back feeling that, I have got to look at people with completely different eyes, So definitely there is an increase in empathy levels.
Do you feel in the generations, the empathy levels are diminishing or increasing compared to the generations?
See, I don't know. Personally, I have a lot of regard for the new generation. And they're all our kids, right, Mr. Murthy, your sons, daughters, my son.
Yeah.
And when I interact with them, I kind of think, that it's very easy to make a very general statement saying that many people feel the empathy levels are coming down and, they are very impatient and all that. But the more I interact with these young people, and I realize that what I know or what I learned at the age of 55, most of these guys know at the age of 20. And, a couple of years back, I remember I had just read about the Stanford experiment, which is about, delayed gratification. And, I was kind of very amazed about it. And I was telling my son, who was 18 years old, and just before just as I started, he told me the entire experiment and he told me everything. And he told me about, I was kind of stunned. And I asked him, how do you know? He said, oh, you think I just keep seeing sports or I just keep seeing YouTube, but we also see these. So today, when I see younger generation, people who work with me, I see that there is very high, empathy levels. Patience may be a little, here and there, but that's fine. That slowly things will. But we have to also, the counterbalance is that how can they be patient when there is so much opportunity?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, I look at it that way. We were more patient because opportunity was not so much. Now there's so much opportunity that everybody is a little impatient.
Yes.
But I think it's a very interesting time for people to be young today. And it's also a very interesting time for us to grow old. So it's a beautiful time in the world.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murthy.
So Devashish, Sanjay here. Formally, today I am following you, and I am lucky. That means somehow I am in knowing you in that way. So very good actually that this you depicted that the message in a very simple but in a very effective way, that how we have to keep the balance. If there is any one of the whole is not of the same size, that it may not be intact. So thanks for this idea. I think that will keep in my mind personally and quite long actually. Okay. So I could, understand that, okay, from your family, that the pillar or maybe your society, and then how you are interacting, somehow I am, following you. So I know that, but not about your career and all these things. So my question to you, that now you have so much of rich experience, like more than 30 years and all. So what you are finding the changes in your career from early stages till now, and how you are handling them actually?
See, in the work, everything has changed for all of us, right? And if we look at any process, let's take a simple process like sales. Everybody understands sales because even if you're in production, even if you're in, supply chain, you understand the process of selling, right? Everybody sells all the time. So, I mean, you're asking me a question, what has changed at the workplace? Instead of, I'm trying to give you a answer of what really has changed at everybody's workplace. So if you look at the process of sales, it largely consisted of 4 or 5 parts, right? I mean, the first part of the sales was to identify a customer, and a salesperson would go and meet him. In that interaction, the salesperson would always be more knowledgeable because it's his product, it's his solution. He knows it. He spends all his time with it. Right? And the customer is the guy who is now wanting to know and learn from it. During the process of doing this, we used to build a relationship with the customer. Let's say I'm going to Mr. Murthy. So I build a relation with him. And then after 1 or 2, 3, 4 meetings, I tell Mr. Murthy, can we have lunch together? After that, we extend it to a dinner and we have a drink, right? So we build a relationship. And then slowly, me and Mr. Murthy start doing business. He gives me an order. I start sending him materials. And, if there's a problem, he calls me up and I try to solve it. Look at this entire mix today. I'm a sales guy and I'm going to meet the customer. Who knows more, me or the customer? Today, it's completely reversed. The customer knows much more than me. He's seen everything on YouTube. He has all the information at his fingertips. I only know about my company. He knows about 10 companies. He's been to all the big exhibitions in Europe, America. So the whole process has changed. And in the process that I'm going to meet Mr. Murthy and get friendly with him, sometimes it is so that I'm not even meeting him physically. I'm just meeting him, let's say, on a computer screen, and this could go on for 1, 2, 3, 4. So how do I build relationship with him? After that, we used to get physical order copies. Nowadays, nobody knows who's getting an order copy. We used to bill. Nobody bills also. I understand in my company, somebody in Wipro is billing. Somebody is collecting the payment. So I think the entire process has changed, Sanjay. And people who are ready to accept this and understand this change, they are making the changes themselves. So today, if I have to build a relationship with Mr. Murthy, whatever, let's take an example of Accenture. I'm seeing Ritika on the screen who's to work there. It's not a product company, it's a service company. So if today you have to build a relationship, then the only way I can build my concept with her as a customer is what's my social profile? What am I doing on LinkedIn? What am I writing? How many papers have I published? All that in the old world was not necessary. I used to meet Mr. Murthy and get friendly with him. And then I used to ask him one day, can we have lunch together? But today, that entire interface is dead. So if there is a person who understands it, then he'll start taking steps toward that, right? To some extent, I think people have understood, and now we see this huge craze about, doing these courses, which is a great thing, adding to your knowledge. But I think along with that, people also have to start building their footprints. And these footprints have to not only be on LinkedIn. I mean, many people feel I'll keep sharing something on LinkedIn and that's going to make me successful. No. I mean, if you're a production guy, how many papers have you published? What are you doing? If Ritika is going to come to meet me, or if I'm going to interact with her, I would have searched all this on Google. And if it shows up nothing, then I have no self-concept. I have no concept about her. That's one big change. The customer who knows much more than what I know today is really funny, because earlier, I mean, Sanjay, you and I both have been in business for long. I mean, we used to, what was our weapons? They were PPTs, PDFs, and these kind of things we opened up, samples. All this has become completely irrelevant. I mean, I don't see any customer telling me PPT khol ke dikhao. I don't see any customer telling me some sample leke aao. I mean, he may want samples to interact and feel with it. So work, I think, has completely changed. When we started working, all our people who used to work with us, I still remember once I did a 360, maybe about 25 years back. And one of my colleagues in that 360 wrote, most of the things were not very long writings, but one of the comments he said is, if Devashish is telling you it is correct, go ahead and do it. That's that old world, right? Where if the boss tells you something, it is perfectly right. But today it's no longer like that. I mean, today, today's generation, whatever you are telling, they're checking on Google. which is not wrong. It's a tool which is available.
Right,
So,
right.
so you got to be 100 times more well-read, 100 times more sought out in your mind, because somebody is checking you every minute, every second, and then he or she is making up your mind. So, Sanjay, I think, see, the basic business of commerce has not changed. I mean, you buy material, you sell material, you collect money, all that is fine. But I think these intricacies of how they are doing, how things are being done, that's changed a lot. And I think, things like pre-sales is going to become very active. Earlier, answering your question, I sold something to somebody. If he had a problem, he called me. Today, there's nothing like that. You sold something to me. Before I go home, that guy sent me a mail saying that when you open this box, do this, do that, do this. Even in industrial setups, people are expecting that. They are saying that it's no longer that when I have a problem, I'll call you. So sorry, Sanjay, I've kind of answered your question in a very long way. But I think everything in business today has changed.
No, completely agree actually. That half of that, that your staff or maybe your colleague is mostly half of your years of your age actually. So we have to change and we have to align with their mindset, with their speed and all this. So there's a real challenge actually in the real world. Yeah, thanks, Devashish.
So I think that's all for today.
Yeah,
First of
it's
all-
9:30. I think it's late on a Friday night.
First of all, it was really an honor to have you here and hear so many insightful things from you. And I'm 100% sure this buttonhole analogy is going to remain with us forever, because I don't think so anybody till now has broken it down so simply for us. Like, finding that balance and achieving whatever we can by maintaining that. Thank you so much, Debashish.
Thank
to
you.
be with
Thank you,
us
everybody. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll sign
Devashish.
off.
Have a good weekend. Bye-bye.
Yeah, everybody have a great weekend. Thanks.
Yeah.
Same to you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye bye.
Bye, guys.